Imagine an animal the size of a chicken with vampire fangs, porcupine bristles, and the jaw strength of a nutcracker on steroids. That's not science fiction. That's real prehistoric biology. And as strange as that sounds, it's only the beginning. Pagomastax, the porcupine vampire chicken. So picture this. You're walking through ancient South Africa, millions of years ago, obviously, and out of the bushes waddles a creature that looks like a porcupine, walks like a bird, and flashes a set of fangs straight out of a vampire movie. That, my friend, is Pagomastax. One of the strangest dinosaurs you've probably never heard of, and maybe for good reason. This little guy was only about 2 feet long, basically chicken-sized, but evolution didn't hold back. Its body was covered in stiff, bristle-like feathers, giving it the appearance of a prehistoric punk rocker who lost a bet. But the real party starts when you look at its face. Pagomastax had 2 sharp, curved fangs that jutted out from the top and bottom of its jaws like it was trying to audition for a role in Jurassic Twilight. But here's the weird part. It wasn't even a meat-eater. Those Dracula teeth? Not for ripping flesh. Most scientists think they were used for self-defense, or maybe to fight off other Pagomastaxes in some kind of tiny dino showdown. Imagine 2 bristly vampire chicken things scrapping over a bush. Evolution? You are weird. The story of this dinosaur gets even stranger when you realize it sat in a museum drawer for decades. It was first found back in the 1960s, and for years, no one really knew what it was. Paleontologists just shrugged and assumed it was some broken-up lizard-bird bone thing. It wasn't until the early 2000s, when a paleontologist named Paul Sereno took another look and basically said, "Wait, what the hell is this?" Turns out Pagomastax was part of a group called Heterodontosaurids, dinosaurs known for having a wild variety of teeth. They had blade-like incisors at the front for slicing plants, molar-like grinders in the back for chewing, and then the fangs. Basically, their mouths were tiny medieval torture chambers built for vegetation. Its jaw muscles were strong too, strong enough to crush seeds and tough plant matter, which made it sort of like the ancient world's answer to a squirrel. Except, imagine that squirrel was angry, armed, and covered in weaponized feathers. If anything, Pagomastax shows us just how weird evolution can get when no one's watching. And trust me, it only gets weirder from here. Pterodaustro, Satan's flamingo. Okay, so imagine if a flamingo and a horror movie villain had a baby, and then handed that baby 1,000 toothbrush bristles for teeth. Congratulations, you've just visualized Pterodaustro, one of the strangest flying reptiles to ever haunt the skies of ancient South America. Now technically it wasn't a dinosaur, it was a pterosaur, a close relative that just happened to look like evolution got a little too experimental. It lived around 125 million years ago, and had a wingspan of about 8 feet. Big, but not absurd. What was absurd was its face, specifically, its mouth. Its lower jaw was packed with nearly 1,000 long, hair-thin teeth that looked more like broom bristles than anything meant for chewing. And this wasn't some weird dental accident. These teeth were highly specialized, built for one thing: filter feeding. Pterodaustro would glide low over lakes and shallow seas, dipping its beak in the water like a bird vacuum, filtering out plankton, crustaceans, and tiny organisms like it was the world's creepiest Brita filter. Think whale, but with feathers and a beak that could star in a horror film. This feeding style is why it earned the nickname Satan's flamingo. Because yes, it kind of fed like a flamingo. But instead of a cute pink marsh bird, you get a long-faced nightmare with a comb mouth and hollow bones. Evolution really said, let's do flamingo, but evil. And like Pagomastax, it's another case of prehistoric nature just going for it. Because when you've got no predators, no rules, and a blank evolutionary canvas, sometimes you end up with a goth pelican with dental problems. Still, Pterodaustro was a master of its niche. Efficient, elegant in its own alien way, and totally unbothered by how many people it would freak out millions of years later. Mononychus, the one-clawed weirdo. Alright, we've met the vampire porcupine and the demon flamingo. So naturally, the next step is a dinosaur that looks like it skipped arm day, permanently. Say hello to Mononychus, a small, feathered theropod that lived around 70 million years ago in what's now Mongolia. It had a long, bird-like body, was about 3 feet long, and ran on two legs like a turbocharged ostrich. Sounds normalish, right? Wait until you see its arms. Most dinosaurs had 3 fingers, some had 2. Mononychus, just 1, on each hand. And not just a little dainty nub either. This was a big, fat power claw, like the kind you'd expect on an animal that punches termite mounds for a living. Because, surprise, that's probably what it did. Mononychus is thought to have been an insectivore, with that single claw acting like a built-in crowbar. Scientists believe it used it to tear open termite nests or dig out bugs from tough soil, similar to how anteaters and pangolins do today. So yeah, it had 1 finger, but it made that 1 finger count. Visually, though, it's hilarious. This little feathery blur of motion, sprinting across the late Cretaceous desert, stopping to punch its way into bug hotels. Nature basically said, okay, what if we take a bird, give it T-Rex arms, and then shrink those? But here's where it gets cool. Its build wasn't just for laughs. Mononychus had powerful legs, a lightweight body, and was likely a pretty fast runner. That made it an efficient little forager that could zigzag across open terrain, scoop up dinner, and vanish before anything bigger got interested. It's a great example of extreme specialization. Proof that when evolution wants to solve a problem, it'll do it in the weirdest possible way. Who needs hands when you've got 1 absolute unit of a claw? So far, we've seen dinosaurs fight with teeth, strain shrimp through toothbrushes, and dig with a single finger. But next, we're going big, really big, like mohawk-wearing sauropod big. Amargasaurus, the sauropod with a spiky mohawk. If you think long-necked dinosaurs were just gentle giants munching leaves in peace, let me introduce you to Amargasaurus, the sauropod that looked like it got kicked out of a metal band for being too intense. Amargasaurus lived around 130 million years ago in what's now Argentina. And yes, it had all the classic sauropod traits: massive body, long tail, longer neck. But one look at this thing's back and you'll wonder if it wandered out of a dinosaur-themed Mad Max reboot. Because instead of a smooth, streamlined spine, Amargasaurus had a double row of enormous, upward-pointing spikes running down its neck like a prehistoric mohawk on steroids. For decades, paleontologists weren't even sure what these spines were. At first, it looked like they might have been just bone. A set of sharp, defensive spikes meant to say, "Don't even think about biting me." But then some researchers suggested they weren't exposed at all. Instead, they could have supported a sail-like flap of skin, sort of like Spinosaurus, but classier? So which is it? Spikes or sail? The answer might actually be both. The leading theory today is that the longer spines near the neck poked through skin to form visible spikes, while the rest were covered in skin, creating a sort of half-sail, half-weapon hybrid. It's the dino version of business in the back, party in the front, except the party is made of bone. Why? That's still up for debate. It could have been for attracting mates, maybe for regulating temperature, or maybe it just made predators think twice. After all, if you're a meat-eater eyeing lunch and that lunch suddenly turns into a walking spear rack, you might reconsider your options. And Amargasaurus isn't even the only one. Its relative Dicraeosaurus had neck spines too, just not as dramatic. Clearly, this was a family of sauropods that understood the assignment. If you're gonna be a plant eater, at least look like you could win a fight. Amargasaurus is proof that even the biggest dinosaurs weren't just about size. Sometimes they were about flair. And spikes. Lots and lots of spikes. Ocean oddities, the prehistoric sea of nightmares. Think land dinosaurs were weird? The ocean was on a whole other level. Down there, evolution wasn't just experimenting. It was throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what swam. Take Atopodentatus. Sounds like a wizard spell. Looks like a design fail. This marine reptile popped up around 247 million years ago, right after the Great Dying. And for a while, scientists thought its jaw opened like a zigzag zipper. Later fossils revealed something even stranger. A flat, hammer-shaped snout lined with bristle-like teeth. Perfect for scraping algae off rocks. Imagine a swimming squeegee with reptile vibes. But that was just the beginning. Meet Helicoprion, a 280-million-year-old shark relative with an actual buzzsaw in its lower jaw. Not metaphorically, a spiral of teeth curled inside its mouth like an ancient blender. Scientists spent decades arguing where that saw even went. Nose? Chin? Until they figured out it sliced prey from below. Nightmare fuel, but also kind of incredible. And if you thought sharks were done being weird, enter Stethecanthus. About 370 million years ago, it swam around with an anvil-shaped dorsal fin covered in rough tooth-like scales. No one knows what it was for. Mating, menace, mystery. One thing's clear. Prehistoric seas were chaos, and that chaos was glorious. Concavenator, the dinosaur with the useless hump. Picture your average mid-sized theropod. Sharp claws, fierce teeth, tail for balance. Now randomly slap a triangle-shaped hump right before its hips. Not a sail, not armor, not anything particularly useful looking. Just a big old bump like it's trying to catch Wi-Fi. That's Concavenator. This oddball lived around 130 million years ago in what's now Spain. It looked like an early Carcharodontosaur. Fast, strong, bitey. But that hump? It's the mystery. Some think it stored fat like a camel, or helped with body heat, or was for show. But it's too small for any of those to really work. It's like evolution shrugged. Even stranger, Concavenator may have had proto-feathers on its arms. Not full fluff, just bumps where quills could have been. So imagine a dinosaur that looked like a turkey-lizard hybrid with a random back hump. Basically, the prehistoric version of someone in a cape and mismatched shoes who still somehow pulls it off. Concavenator didn't follow the rules. It just survived. And that alone makes it unforgettable. And that's a wrap on the weirdest creatures evolution ever spit out. If any of these prehistoric freaks made you pause and question reality, you're not alone. Dinosaurs with sails, sharks with buzzsaws, and spine-humped lizards. This planet was once home to some real fever dreams. If you want more mind-bending creatures and forgotten fossils that make today's animals look boring, hit subscribe. Drop a comment with your favorite prehistoric oddball or the one that creeped you out the most. Thanks for watching. And remember, nature's always been weird. We're just the ones catching up. See you in the next one.